Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Melt.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Welcome to the PetPain.com studios for another edition of the Full Melt Show. And we are leaning into the middle of the week. Midweek coming up here tomorrow. I kind of missed the 420 funny days. On Wednesday, I was talking to Ngayo Bilum, 420 comic. On the Facebook the other day, he says he wants to make another appearance on the program. We'll make that happen for you. I really missed him on Wednesdays. I promoted yesterday on the program. Today we talking about, and we're going to have to postpone it because our guest had some changing situations, which postponed their appearance on the program until sometime next week, probably Thursday, or wait a minute. I'm sorry, Wednesday. I think it's going to be Wednesday of next week now that I think about it. Apparently there was a court decision or something, pushed everybody's schedules around. And so the media people are adjusting for that. And we suffered the consequence, but we'll have the guy from the California Water Board on to talk about how marijuana is affecting the drought conditions there. And people stealing water. I mean, you got people like Tom Selleck out there, with tanker trucks full of water that he's taken from somewhere and put them on his lawn. I mean, really, Magnum, you got to do that? It's a good thing the old mustache doesn't need any water, because if it needed that much water, I'm just saying if the mustache was like the pistachio plants or the almond trees, wouldn't be much water left in the California basin, even though it's already nearly sucked dry. I mean, they're drilling wells down there deeper and deeper in the farmland. And I saw this whole thing today. I don't know, there's a piece on NPR about this, I think. Going on and on about how, the people that are out there going and inspecting these outdoor marijuana grows are doing it from overhead. And it was like an 8-minute piece. I don't know. I almost, did we play that yesterday? Did we play that yesterday? It seems like we might have played it. I don't know. I lose track after a while. There's so much news and information in the marijuana field. Sometimes just stuff that happened on yesterday's show. I'm like, did we do that? Because I remember hearing that yesterday, but did we play it on the show? Because I played it sometime yesterday, but was it on the program? I think it was. It was like an 8-minute piece there from NPR. Or maybe not. Maybe I chose not to put that piece on. Didn't we do, I think we did yesterday, now that I think about it, it was public television, not public radio. We did, I played the piece, I remember now. We played the piece from Off the Record with Tim Skubic. And they were talking about marijuana in Michigan and whether or not it was going to be on the ballot. Of course it's going to be on the ballot. It seems that there's going to be, for the first time ever, usually when you saw a marijuana ballot petition happening in a state, it would happen just in one particular area by one particular group. It wasn't being attacked from several different areas by several different groups. First time ever I saw a marijuana ballot petition where there was more than one competing ballot group. Aside from perhaps the wolf issue in Michigan recently, and I guess there's examples. I'm sure there are other examples. I just haven't heard of any. Until this year when Responsible Ohio started doing their thing, and you got OTEP, and you got the rest of them. There's a whole bunch of other ones in there. I mean, I don't know. The only ones that I know are actually collecting signatures are OTEP and Responsible Ohio. I don't know that the other guys got that far. They probably have, just maybe one or two of them have. I don't know. I haven't followed into that detail. It certainly hasn't been anything that's made the news. I can tell you that much. You know, I have a running bet. I was talking to Russ Belville, who does another show. He's probably on the air right now as we speak. In fact, I know he is. On the Russ Belville show, 420 Radio. And so those guys, I think it's 420radio.org, I believe, for the Russ Belville show. And so, and we're on the replay over there. So when Russ isn't on, he'll replay other shows, our shows amongst the ones that he replays. So thank you, Russ, for doing that. We really appreciate helping to spread the word. And incidentally, now that I've mentioned Russ, I've got a sidetrack here for a second to tell you that we're going to collaborate together. It's my understanding we've got a kind of a handshake deal on collaborating with the coming election cycle in about, I don't know, what is it, 18 months or now? Or 17 months now away from the presidential cycle. We'll be doing some, you know, long-form news broadcasting with people reporting in from different important select polling places about cannabis issues. And that is going to be an epic program, let me tell you. I mean, I hate to promote a program that's going to happen over a year from now, but it's going to happen. And when it does, it will be epic. Because there will be other features and things in play here. I mean, we're going to have a mobile app going. We might have other stations participating, other players. I mean, we haven't drawn everybody into this yet. We've just started figuring this out. But I'll tell you what, it'll be the largest marijuana news crowd, I think, ever assembled in the history of the subject. Where people are listening live, watching history change, because it will be. Now, on the subject of history changing, did I finish? Just making sure I didn't. There was every once in a while I'll start a thought and never complete it because I'll side branch. I did side branch, but where did I don't remember now. See, I side branched and I can't even pick up from the side branch. Look, I am not affected by marijuana. I've done no cannabis today. It's just been a very busy and confusing day, I'll tell you. So this issue with the president, I got to tell you about this. So the president we mentioned yesterday pardoned some 46 people for nonviolent drug offenses, and I think that's really important. I said that yesterday. And the more I look at these prison stats, the more I think that people got to understand when Reagan took office in 1980, there were 24,000 some odd prisoners in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for whatever offenses they had done. I'm assuming most of them were violent crimes or threatening crimes, or where people had fear for their life or their safety or their property, or they're threatened with a weapon. I don't know. I didn't look into those 24,000. Now, frankly, they're old statistics. They're from 1980. But given just that's when the Bureau of Prisons statistics begin in that year, in 1980. And so if you look through, at the end of it, we got 200, I think at the peak of it a couple years ago, we had 2011, there were some 217,000 plus prisoners in the system. We've been loading up at least 1,000, as many as 11,000 prisoners into the system every year. Now, starting in 2012, it was the first time that the population increased by less than 1,000. This is, again, during the Obama administration. First time in the history of the recording of the statistics that they went below 1,000 prisoners added to the system. And then the following year, in 2013, it was less than half that. It was like 450, 500 people added to the system. And then for the first time ever, another record entered into the books. The prison population declined federally by over 5,000 people. Now, with Obama releasing the 46 people yesterday, he'd already done another 40 or some people, totaling about 89 people, 89 people, if memory serves, that he has not pardoned. This isn't a pardoning action. He didn't excuse their behavior. He's not pardoned them. He's not overlooking some crime. What they've done is they've commuted sentences. In other words, it's an early release. They're saying the basis for this is that the sentences passed were unduly harsh. They've been modified by Congress since, and if people were going to prison today, they'd already be let out under current guidelines. So these people have been in prison now for a while, so they're commuting these sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. And they're not out yet. They're not going to be out until November 10th. But I have made an invitation. We've had some a prisoner on the program before. He was a federal prisoner in the same prison that I'm going to talk about tonight. This cat's name is Calvin Caver. Calvin is in the Federal Bureau of Prisons with a life sentence. It is not a marijuana offense. It is a cocaine offense. It is a crack cocaine offense. And he's exactly, if you look at all the people yesterday that they released, I would say at least like 98, 97% of them, maybe even more than that, 90, 98, 99% of them were all in the same category. Most of these people had committed offenses involving cocaine base or crack cocaine. And so Calvin is actually one of the people. He's been in prison since, I believe, 2003. So he's been there like 11 years now. Now, Calvin's 30. He's like 30-something, like really very young 30s, like 31, 32, something like that. You got to understand that he did 3 years in the state prison earlier for a similar offense. Now, it'd be interesting to hear from Calvin's standpoint, because you got to remember this is a young guy who's spent more than half of his life behind bars. He's not but a young 30 years old. So sometime around the age, as a youngster, before he was 18, he was incarcerated. You've got these inner city blight problems where you've got inner city poor people who are not well represented by their public school systems, have no good private school system to fall back onto, certainly not one that anybody could afford if it was even available. Many of the private schools have waiting lists. It's not even an option for somebody who's an inner city poor kid. And I think that Calvin has basically viewed himself as being thrown away by society. Now, I've talked to him, and he is a normal-sounding character. He's got his head screwed on straight. He sounds like a normal, everyday person, a fairly intellectual person. He doesn't talk street language. He doesn't have any violent edges to him, no guns, no gangs in his history. This is one of the reasons why they're filing a clemency petition on his behalf. I'm hoping, because we don't know, you can't just call the prison and get Calvin on the phone. But it's hopeful that he'll get released maybe sometime in November, as the petition, the clemency petition, this inordinately long petition with lots of documentation and proof and interviews and stuff supporting it, might let him out by November. That's what we're expecting. That's what we're anticipating. So hopefully Calvin will call during the program. Aside from that, get ready to call us to interact with the marijuana news coming up on the program.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
Hi, and welcome to Performance Bicycle. For over 30 years, people who love to ride have chosen Performance as their number one choice for all their cycling needs. Enjoy all your rides with Performance Bicycle, where great rides begin.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Yeah, and I've set up and poured out this stage with my own two hands. We've traveled this land, packed tight minivan, and all this for the fans, girls, money, and fame. I played their game and had to scream my name. I will show no shame. I live and die for this, and if I come off soft, fix you on this.
Are you scared?
Hell no.
Devil without a cause, and I'm back with the beaver hat.
But I'll tell you what.
This slack, 30 pack the stroll.
Good old Kid Rock might want to be afraid a little bit. Just a little bit. He's an American badass, but he might curl under pressure from General Motors, I'll tell you. Did you see the big story yesterday? There was a story about, and this was announced on WWJ News Radio 950 in the Detroit area. There was an interview done with Kid Rock and Ted Nugent. I'm Mel Tillis. Ted Nugent, not Mel Tillis. Ted Nugent and Kid Rock teaming up for the Kiss My Ass Rebel song. I mean, they're making a song about the rebel flag. And this is apparently in response to Kid Rock telling somebody who was interviewing him about an article for an upcoming story about whatever, concert venue he was at. They interviewed and asked him, as a side note, about the rebel flag. And hey, a lot of people have saying, since the rebel flag's been in the news and South Carolina took it down, which was a pretty historic event. I mean, the president came out and made a speech about it. But it's been ruffling people's feathers, I'll tell you. And so part of what Kid Rock does with his rebel badass point of view, his southern fried country rock flavor, displays that rebel flag sometimes as part of his act, I believe. And I think it props up his act because much of his act is in that genre, right? It's in that lane. So I understand why Kid Rock uses the flag, but I don't believe that honestly, if you ask me, I don't think Kid Rock's use of the flag has any racial connotation to it. I don't think the way he uses it is like that. I think it was used much in the same way that telling the Dukes of Hazzard story was. I never felt as a kid watching that program, growing up, watching it primetime on primetime TV, back, when VCRs were expensive and only rich people's families had them, which we were not. Shut up, meet your beans. But, when I was growing up watching that, I never saw or heard or felt a racial overtone or note at all from the script or the content of that program. And the rebel flag was obviously prominent at times. It was right there on the General Lee, right? It's right on the roof. So I believe there are times and places where you can use the rebel flag to express that lane, that genre, that really is separate from all other racist connotation. If you ask my personal opinion, I think there's a lane for that. I think when you fly it at any state capital, it is certainly a racist statement. I think when you fly that flag and display it as a flag would normally be displayed, it is an offensive symbol. I just think that's what people believe. It doesn't matter what you believe about the flag. That's the general consensus of the people seeing the flag in that context, up on a pole at a place, especially a government place. It's inappropriate, wholly. And, South Carolina finally agreed and said, we're going to preserve this as part of our history, but it's no longer going to be a part of our state's institution. That's over with. Turn the page. Bob Seger once famously said. Now, really, that's what this is about. Now, you got Kid Rock teaming up now with, because he told this newspaper reporter, he told her, tell those people they can kiss my ass, those protesters. Tell them they can kiss my ass. And it was just a side, it wasn't even part of the official interview. It was just a by-the-by in their parting, this reporter and Kid Rock. That quote got tweeted, and it went around. And so now, here comes, the low-life nature of somebody named Ted Nugent, because that guy's a lowlife. I mean, he is the epitome of white trash in this country, if you ask me. My opinion. I think a lot of people agree with me. There are some conservative people that are blowing their tops right now. I mean, steam's coming from their ears. This is not a situation that is going to work out well for anybody but Kid Rock and for Ted Nugent. They're going to capitalize on this rebel flag issue since the thing got tweeted. And they do have the middle finger thing going on, don't they? Especially Kid Rock. But the Republican leanings or the conservative leanings or the libertarian leanings, however you want to classify himself, he's definitely in the conservative hawkish type group of Ted Nugent, is something that I believe Kid Rock aspires to. I think he agrees with that whole philosophy. Which is strange because about half of the people that show up at a Kid Rock concert got a joint hanging from their mouth. I'm just telling you straight up. And I think if you ask Kid Rock about pot, despite the fact that he came from a drug background and used to look like Vanilla Ice in pictures back in the late 80s, early 90s. Just saying, there's pictures. Go look him up. I mean, that's Kid Rock right there. With his Kid Rock attitude and his white rapper deal going on. Very Vanilla Ice-ish, but a little more than Vanilla Ice-ish. Like, Vanilla Ice had the whole, vanilla top going on. And the rap thing. Well, you can't tell me Kid Rock wasn't trying to look like Vanilla Ice up there with his Adidas on. That is not the image he portrays anymore, is it? And so now they're going to take and make this song, right? This rebel flag song. This Kiss My Ass rebel flag song. I forget what the name of this. I know part of it's Kiss My Ass. It's tied directly to that tweet from that reporter did. So I don't know. How does marijuana in the South tie together with the rebel flag? I don't know. I'd say there's a lot of marijuana growing on down in the Appalachian Mountains. You get down there in Kentucky and Tennessee. You get that band music playing, that old bluegrass. Praise the Lord, we got a field of marijuana growing. I mean, there's a lot of them down there that subsist off of illegal activity, including the illegal production of alcohol, as it is, kind of portrayed in that crazy, Discovery Channel TV show, The Moonshiners. I mean, those guys are not doing illegal activity. They're distilling spirits and, selling them illegally without taxation, without any oversight by the government. Well, nothing. And this is a history. It's part of the culture there. How this could not be a legal activity in these conservative states with as many people as there are. I mean, these are very conservative people growing the weed up in the hills of Tennessee and Kentucky and, North Carolina, South Carolina. You see it all over down there. Especially Alabama. A lot of pot growing in the Alabamas. Just saying. So I don't know. This rebel flag thing, I guess the story that I wanted to tell you about, the thing that brought this to my attention, because here in the Detroit area, it's kind of big news. GM, this is in the Free Press. This was updated 57 minutes ago. GM to meet with activists over Kid Rock sponsorship. The story goes as this. How much time do we got? We got a little time. So, dissatisfied with an apparent lack of empathy from music superstar Kid Rock, a civil rights group calling on him to renounce the Confederate battle flag, is meeting with his tour sponsor, according to General Motors. We'll be furthering our call to ask GM to remove their support of funds for Kid Rock's tour, said the Reverend Charles Williams II, who is president of the Michigan chapter of the National Action Network. You'll know those guys from Al Sharpton. NAN, National Action. That's Al Sharpton. And he's also pastor of the King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit. General Motors, whose Chevrolet brand has sponsored Kid Rock's summer tour, today sent the Free Press a statement confirming the meeting on Thursday. Quoting from that note, we have been in touch with Reverend Williams, and representatives from Chevrolet will be meeting with him later this week to better understand his concerns. We need to let some open and constructive dialogue occur as a first step, and then we'll go from there, according to the statement. Members of the Action Network, a branch of a national organization founded by Al Sharpton, appeared outside the Detroit Historical Museum earlier this month, calling on Kid Rock to distance himself from the battle flag that represented the South in the Civil War and has been associated with racial hatred. Last week, the issue became more heated when Rock supposedly told protesters they could kiss my ass. I mean, that's what he said. That's what he told the reporter, and she didn't report it. She tweeted it. I think that's even worse than just reporting it. I mean, I'd have reported it, too. I don't know that I would have tweeted it separately, although it may have been a headline in my story. That was the message passed along by Fox News Channel's Megyn Kelly, who was wrapping up a segment about Rock and the Confederate flag. Rock spokesman told the Free Press that that remark came from a personal conversation between Rock and the Fox host. Rock had otherwise not commented publicly on the controversy. The automaker on Friday reiterated its support for Rock, who has been criticized by some for his use of the controversial flag throughout the years. Chevrolet spokesman said Friday that the automaker stands behind the statement it issued Monday after a Detroit protest by NAN, a New York-based group founded by the Reverend Al Sharpton. The only flag on stage during the Chevy-sponsored summer concert tour is the American flag, and to our knowledge, Kid Rock has not used the Confederate flag on stage for several years, the GM statement read. We are committed to our sponsorship of Kid Rock's summer tour, and we are confident that he will provide his fans, many of whom are proud Chevrolet owners, with a spectacular concert experience that celebrates American freedom. Kid Rock has declined to issue a formal statement, according to the Free Press article in Detroit, about the recent flag flap, but did express contempt for the protesters in a remark relayed last Wednesday by Fox News Channel's Megyn Kelly. Rock, 44, whose name is Robert James Ritchie, had always been a fan of Southern rock and has performed in front of the flag, as well as the American flag. Williams said Tuesday that all they want from him is to distance himself from the controversial symbol. We're saying that if we could get a commitment that this is not going to be at his shows, not going to be something that he promotes, then we would be happy, Williams said. In 2011, Rock received the Great Expectations Award from the Detroit branch of the NAACP, calling it by far the coolest award I've ever received. With protesters outside the event that night burning a Confederate flag, Rock addressed the controversy briefly on stage. I never flew that flag with any hate in my heart, Rock told the crowd at the 56th annual Fight for Freedom Fun Dinner, noting that he had embraced it as a Southern rock tribute. You see what I'm saying? There's a lane for that. I believe there is, because I don't think Kid Rock has a racist bone in his body either. I really don't. I mean, he's from Michigan. He's from the North. He has none of those ties. He has none of that racial hatred in his heart. The vast majority of Detroiters are indeed black. The controversy stretches back to at least 2002, when Rock was displaying the Confederate flag on stage for several minutes during shows on that year's tour. Everybody knows where I stand and what I'm about, he told the Free Press in an interview at that time. It's not about hatred or being a racist. I like Southern rock music, and a lot of people died under that flag for beliefs they had, right or wrong, but it stands for rebel and my love of Southern rock, and I believe him. So that is the story. I mean, that's the deal. I think it's kind of crazy that people have to get this bent up over a symbol. But I do understand, and I agree with them taking this down. It doesn't belong in a place of government. It doesn't belong being flown next to, underneath, around, on the same building grounds, on government property at all with the American flag. It just does not. This is the great United States of America, and we fly one flag, and it is the U.S. flag. And that's what I pledge my allegiance to. You know, and I don't discount the history of the Confederate flag and what it means, what it stands for, what it represents. I just don't want people lying about it. There are people who will outright tell you that the Civil War wasn't fought over slaves. There's a very big rock that those people crawled out from underneath, I'll tell you. Very big rock. And I wish they'd kind of crawl back underneath it. Because a lot of these people have no formal education, and if they have been pointed to the educational facts, as history has recorded them, they want to deny the idea that the Civil War was ever fought about slavery, that this was all about states' rights. They want to make it a modern-day issue and not an old-day issue. You got to understand, a lot of these people were, like I said, didn't go to formal school. Even in today's age, a lot of these kids in the South didn't go to have any formal education to speak of. If they did, it was short-lived and ill-gotten, ill-received, certainly not utilized. It's a rough route the poor people have to go. And sometimes the poor, and I would suggest many times, no matter where you go, poor people don't get educated as well as wealthy people. And alternatively, they seek their education, their information from the best next source that they trust, which is their elders, who also never went to school. I'm not saying, look, I'm not picking on Southern people. I'm from, my family's from the South. My family, all hillbilly. On both sides of them, all from, they've migrated a little bit up north to Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio and stuff, but they all came from Kentucky. They came from Tennessee. So, I am not besmirching the Southern people whatsoever. They're part of my blood. However, there's a place and a time for everything, and I don't know that the Confederate flag is something that ever should have been. Look, South Carolina didn't put that flag back up on a pole until 1961, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, as a big F-U to the fact that the Civil Rights Movement was making progress. I mean, then you got Brown versus Board of Education, all the stuff that followed that. I mean, this is all very important stuff. It's an important part of American history. You just can't rewrite it. And I don't know, again, how this ties to marijuana. It does not. I just think it clearly doesn't, but it's a topic that I couldn't overlook, given the circumstances of my location, the superstardom of the people involved, except for the has-been Ted Nugent. And let's face it, that guy is a has and a been. So there's that. And then I guess that's all I got to talk about that. It's enough. Enough already with that. We're going to come back on the other side of the break and talk about some bigger news. We've got another state that is pulling up in the ranks of states that have passed medical marijuana laws. Now, this state had passed one before, but it was only tied to research. So the only people who could actually participate in it had to have a condition that they could get, on a study with. North Carolina passing a new bill today.
You're getting the full melt.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil.
Sacred Elements.
Natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt.
Sacred Elements.
Beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with max power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
I wanna be bad with you, girl, like we're robbing a bank. I wanna be mad at the world, like it took you away.
Yeah. If you want to join us on the program, you can always call us. It's a toll-free line we provide. A whole bunch of phone lines sitting here wide open. 844-420-TALK. Join us on the Canlock No Smell Bags phone lines. Canlock.com, by the way, sponsors our telephone system. And a handy tool they are. I wish we could utilize them more. I'll just tell you. Listen, there's, so, you know, leaving off, we were talking about North Carolina, introducing this subject about them becoming a new medical marijuana state? Question mark. The House, this is from WRAL.com, the news outlet down there in Raleigh. The House gave final legislative approval Tuesday to bills that would toughen penalties for improper operation of amusement rides and would adjust the rules for using marijuana oil to treat severe seizure disorders. Both measures now head to Governor Patrick McCrory for his signature or veto, or they can become law without his signature. So this is a done deal. Whether he signs these bills or not, this is the law. House Bill 39, it was that thing about the fair and, you know, talking about toughening charges for people who operate amusement park rides in a scandalous way. But then, toggling down to the marijuana part, boy, went on for quite a while about that study. The House passed Bill 766 by a margin of 112-2. The bill would make it easier for neurologists to prescribe hemp extract oil, sometimes called cannabidiol oil or CBD oil. The oil is made from a special strain of marijuana but does not contain high concentrations of the chemicals that get people high. I'd say a lot of this information could be debunked later. It is seen by many, because I believe CBD will get you high. I think it won't get you high like seeing things high. It's not going to cause hallucinations, but I'm going to tell you, CBD by itself, without the balancing effects of THC, is a very potent sedative. It is seen by many as useful in treating children with epileptic symptoms. A bill passed last year was designed to allow for wider use of CBD oil, but many families say they still face obstacles because its use was supposed to be linked to academic studies. If there are no academic studies, and this is the way that legislators end up doing some of this stuff sometimes, they pass a law about it and then create no system by which you could engage the law. So they make it available and say, okay, this is legalized now, but there's no studies. We're not going to approve any studies. Nobody's getting access. I mean, this is kind of how this gets done sometimes. New Jersey did this. New York did this. Florida did this. A bunch of states did this, actually. It's a first baby step. It's a baby step because now these guys have gone back and introduced this new law, which they passed. And so the new bill includes a sunset. Oh, did I get everything? This year's measure would allow for a less convoluted path for doctors to prescribe the treatment. The new bill includes a sunset in 2021 when use of CBD oil would again become illegal in North Carolina if studies of the substance don't show therapeutic benefit. So they're still kind of tying it to research, but just in a less direct way. Before, I think you had to get involved in a study for the doctor to legally prescribe it to you. And then the only source of the CBD oil is from hemp, which is less than 1% THC by federal classification. And if you know much about the human endocannabinoid system as it's understood now, if you know much about the components in cannabis that have therapeutic benefit, or have been touted at least to have therapeutic benefit, what they would call anecdotal evidence of benefit, of efficacy, because everything is anecdotal until it's been put to this formal study. What formal study? Ones that are now going to begin, I think. I think more of them are going to get approved. It's indicated by the very fact that NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, through the University of Mississippi, has contracted many more locations to actually grow cannabis on behalf of the federal government. It's the official federal government grow closet, as it were. That closet has been expanded tremendously. And the only real reason that they could use to justify that expanded growth is because they need access to these drugs through NIDA, because that's the only legitimate source for these materials to be tested on in official capacity. To grow for them. NIDA's got that wrapped up. National Institutes of Drug Abuse. This is an organization principally tasked with looking at the negative effects of cannabis on the population, like every other drug. They're not going to talk about the good things. They're only there to look at the bad aspects. That's what it's at, drug abuse. It doesn't talk about drug use. It's not the National Institutes of Drugs. It's the National Institute of Drug Abuse. That's what the A in NIDA stands for. Understand where the studies are being done, who's funding them, and what they're looking at. If you want to, discount the results of said studies, because you have to understand the source from which they come. This is the very justification this department needs to continue to exist. Is there financial exertion in play? Absolutely there is. These people in these departments would not have a job if they didn't do it. And that job is to find the negative aspects associated with drugs on the population. Work with the nonprofits in those places to get things done. That is the marching orders. If they don't do that, if they fail to produce evidence or results that bolster their continued existence, they may no longer continue to exist at some point. Knight is growing a lot more weed through the University of Mississippi. And they're going to do more studies. They have to approve more studies. It's also indicated by the fact that this duplicate process that the FDA does, that they instituted some decade ago or nearly a decade ago, slowing down the process of applications for therapeutic or medical benefit by researchers. It was a duplicate process that was adding several years to the application process, yet did no additional studies other than the FDA had already done. They were point by point, nearly duplicated, for no other reason than to slow things down. No, you're not going to study that pot. We got people over here, in the pharmaceutical industry that say don't do it, and they're giving us money to get reelected. So guess what? We're not going to do. This is when big government goes awry, when they're no longer being represented, or they're no longer representing the people of the country, when they're instead representing these moneyed groups. These groups are wholly moneyed. They have a lot of cash in their hands. This is big business. they're investing all the wealth that they've gained. Look, these businesses were still thriving even during the Great Recession. Were they doing less business? Yes. Were they still profiting like gangbusters? Absolutely they were. They were just profiting less than they would have been if the economy was great. I mean, these guys have it, hedged. They win or they win whether the economy wins or loses. These guys win. The banks and Wall Street has that all sewn up. Doesn't matter what the economy does. We're on the winning edge of either end of it. And we're good at finding the cycles and spending our money in the places that result in those profits. And we're going to take those profits and we're going to spend them in places that are going to benefit our businesses additionally. And that's by basically, I tell you what, there's got to be some other way to weed out this kind of corporate corruption. When does lobbying become outright tit-for-tat corruption? I give you money, you give me my way on a bill. When does it become that? Right now, there's got to be an actual link, I think. If the FBI is investigating this kind of underhanded influence, it's bribery, isn't it? I was always taught that was bribery. Tell you what, I'm going to give you money, and you're going to do me a favor. You're a powerful person. I wouldn't be giving this money to anybody else. I'm only giving it to you because you're in a position that can do something about what I want done. So I'll give you this money, but I'm telling you, I need movement in this place, or I will not be I will not be contributing this big campaign donation next time around. In fact, I'll be giving it to your opponent, who will probably be doing your job. This is what they're doing. They're threatening our legislators with cash, and they need that cash to stay elected. And they're only elected to represent you, not them. When does the ballot box get stuffed with cash? I say when Citizens United wins. I think it's already been stuffed with cash. I think there's more cash in the ballot box than there is actual votes. Do you disagree? How could you not see that? I think, and I've made the claim in recent days, that I think this government, having peeled back the layers of the onion and taken a peek underneath that, underneath that blanket, those blankets, because it's several layers. Corrupt, right down to the core. Police have been showing that corruption in a huge way lately. Have not been good stewards of their own messaging. If you've got protect and serve on your badge and you're busy stealing from people because you can, as an officer of the law, not charge them with crimes, which is clearly what's going on, especially in the drug community. And where they can get drugs, they'll take those and they'll utilize those and they'll get more money. It's an extraction process. It's wholly corrupt. And I like I said, I've made recent statements. I didn't say it all the way. I'll say it now. That say that this country is more corrupt than Soviet Russia was. During the Soviet Union, of all those little countries that are broken up now slowly getting gobbled back up, apparently one by one, if Putin has his way about it. And boy, that's another thing. As a by the by, anecdotally, if for some crazy, strange reason, I said this on the Facebook too, that Donald Trump ever manages to maneuver through the electorate and make his way through that gauntlet unharmed, unscathed, and end up on the ballot somewhere. Can you imagine a world where the two major superpowers are governed by one Putin and one Trump? If that's not a recipe for global disaster, I don't know what is. They seem to be much of the same character line. Screw you, I'll do what I want. I've got enough money, I'll throw it around. I don't care if it's illegal, I'll do it anyways. We got a taste of that in Reagan and Bush days, I'll tell you. Iran-Contra, what? Ollie North, what? They're buying illegal drugs, selling them on the streets, taking that money and doing what? Something that the Congress has expressly forbidden? What? I mean, these are criminals of the highest order, and they lie about it. If we can't get Congress to get on board with our foreign policy initiatives, if they're not going to fund my little campaign on the Sandinista rebels, we'll just go out there, and I'm sure somebody in his administration gave it, because Reagan was nothing more than a puppet. This was not a strong man. This was an actor put into office by people who liked his mouthpiece. He forgot how to be their mouthpiece later in his terms, in his second term especially, when he was leaning over to Nancy, asking her what to say. Because somewhere inside he knew the answer, he just couldn't spit it out because he was suffering from Alzheimer's, for crying out loud. Boy, more political today than marijuana, aren't we? This is all tied together. I mean, it's all part of the same machinery. It's hard not to get into that part of the machine when you're in this part. The gears turn, they all go around, they all grind together. At some point, you're going to meet another part of the engine. This is another part of that engine. I mean, I told you when Reagan took office earlier in the program, there were 24,000 people in the federal prison system. By the time he had left office, it had multiplied by 6 times. Bush adding another crap load of people to it. He really ramped it up. Clinton didn't help either. He added even more. As they ramped up prison, they started building more federal prisons, initiating those contracts, spending millions and sometimes billions of dollars on these efforts to incarcerate people for nonviolent drug offenses. 3 strikes and you're out, mandatory minimums, that whole era, which we're now cleaning up. I don't think that this was something Reagan was behind. I don't think he had the political makeup or the character makeup to be placing these people in bars. I think what he did, or behind bars, I think what he did was he had a lot of people behind the scenes, pulling his strings, telling him what to say and how to say it. He was a good deliverer of lines. People are hating me right now. All the people who are Reagan friends are just like, listening to him. Blast. Oh, you hippie retard. I mean, that's what they're doing. You're just a libtard, aren't you? I am proudly liberal. I'm beyond liberal. I am progressive, I'll tell you. I'm in the Elizabeth Warren camp. If you ask me who should be president, I would hire her first. She's Donald Trump with some actual morals behind her. Somebody who'll stick up for the little guy. Somebody who'll push back against big banks and big business. Look, there's nothing wrong with those people. We need them to participate in capitalism in America. You just can't have them taking over everything and extracting the entire... I mean, it's kind of like a farmer in a field. You can only grow so much from the field before the field is depleted of energy to grow anything. You got to put something back in if you expect anything to come out. This is why farmers lay fields fallow for a while, and why hemp should be planted in those fallow fields, because they replenish the nutrients in the earth while growing a new crop. It's a fallow field without making it fallow. In fact, you get 3 harvests of that hemp out of that field. I'm just saying. And maybe I've said too much. So it's break time, obviously, again. I got to ask this question. And we talk about this coming up after the break. The cannabis leaf, all by itself, just a green leaf with a white background. Negative or positive when you see that? When you see it, do you feel negative about that image? Or do you feel positive about that image? Amazing results to that question next.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259 259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki,
Sacred Elements.
raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Well, I think it's the grand opening of the Sweet Leaf people out there. Welcome back to the program. I have to remind you today's content, which was supposed to be that business about marijuana farms in in California, sucking up the water, making the drought worse. Are people in California stealing water to grow pots? Absolutely they are. Pot plants take a lot of water to grow. And there's a crap load. They estimated, I think, in this PBS story that there were like 6,000. Wait a minute. No, that's not right. 95,000. That's what it was. 95,000 marijuana grows going on across the state of California outdoors, just sucking up energy from the stream or whatever river they're diverting outdoors. Some people stealing water from other farmers who have collection ponds and water bladders. They were showing this marijuana grow that these people, they were not law enforcement officers, walking up, coming out to inspect grows in, what's really pretty much the Emerald Triangle region of the state. They weren't there to shut the grows down. They weren't trying to tear the plants down. They weren't trying to call up criminals. I mean, I'd love to see that day here in Michigan. They find a pot plant growing outdoors here in Michigan. I mean, they've got several machine guns pointed at it. In California, not so much so. This is old hat to them out there. They'll use it when they have to, or they use it as a tool, a device to get their way. But they generally, there's no way to enforce this stuff. That's the general whole idea anyways. This is not an enforceable position. This is not a sustainable thing. You can't keep doing this and expect you're going to win, ever. This is why the prison population's been reducing recently. The federal government's finally come to that tipping point. We have no more money to contribute towards this. There are other things we got to do. We can't keep putting people for pot in prison or people for nonviolent drug offenses in prison. They had some stuff. They made some money. They sold it to somebody. That's it. I mean, that's the extent of it. We're housing these people at $36,000 and $40,000 a year. It's craziness. And these people in California are doing everything they can to get what water's available, because there's not much of it. And the people who are the equivalent of the Department of Natural Resources out there, who have to look after their water supplies. Even more critically now, because it's so low, like what was contaminating a little bit before was just barely a little bit of contamination. Now that contamination is increased greatly because there's less water and more contamination, you see. And it's not just the stealing of the water, but it's also the runoff of the nutrients from these gardens, which are highly toxic when they end up in the water supply. Not supposed to be in the water supply at all. These are heavy metals and other components. Bad, bad, bad. Especially for a state like California, who's really on the forefront of civil protection for natural, resources like that. They really are. They have been for quite some time. They've really had some of the strongest consumer protectionism laws in place. That's why, California emissions on cars for so long. You had to buy the California emissions, but, where California goes, so goes the rest of the nation with regards to these kinds of laws. Right down to marijuana, for that matter. Dried up out in California. What's the impact? What are people doing? Those guys were out there trying to say, look, we got to find a way to use the water for these gardens in a better way. You can't divert without a permit, and we'll give you a permit, but you gotta be reasonable about your usage. You can't just divert the whole stream to your use. This is not the marijuana stream. This is a stream that everybody needs to pull from for their uses too. And it's just crazy. I ran myself out of time talking about that. I still had to tell you about a bunch of other stuff. Oh man, there's just never enough time in the program to get everything out. I either talk less or include more subjects. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we come up on Hump Day tomorrow for another edition of The Full Melt Show. We'll see you then.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.